want to explain, Mary Oliver herself was not a Unitarian Universalist, but she kind of became the poet laureate of our denomination, to the point where one of my colleagues in seminary, one of my classmates, was getting ready for the big committee where he would be determined if he was really meant to be a minister. And we said, so how are you preparing? He says, I just figure I'm going to go there and just say, Mary Oliver, Mary Oliver, Mary Oliver. Because she gave us the words, and she gave us the world. Right after this service, there's going to be a meeting of the Board of Trustees. They'll set up tables, and they'll start meeting at 12:15, and they'll be considering the care and feeding of a congregation. And they're going to continue their work of learning how to govern with prophetic imagination. Hey, I'm supposed to be preaching on moral imagination. Okay, come on. And I'm really, really proud of them, because done well, governing and serving on the Board of Trustees becomes like a shared spiritual practice of identifying and affirming our highest values. It's meaning-filled work. It is joyous. And I'm telling you about this is because the first 15 minutes of every meeting is set aside specifically for the community to come and address the board with any concerns or questions. And in recent months, not very many people have been showing up for that time, which could lead the board to think that everything around here is just all tickety-boo and they don't have anything to worry about, which, well, come on, we're Unitarian Universalists. And remember, the covenant here specifically asks us to bring our concerns directly to one another. And that includes bringing concerns directly to the board, or to the minister, or to another congregant. Bring your concerns directly to the board at 12:15. Don't just, huff and snuff over lunch. Talk about it to people who need to hear. One of the important topics at today's board meeting is going to be discussing the possibility, it's not set in stone, it's not even fully decided, the possibility that the congregation might choose a social justice focus for a fixed period of time. And to try and make this decision, understand this, that the board distributed a survey a couple weeks ago. Maybe you took the survey during the potluck. If you didn't, it's not too late. You can go and talk to board members. And the board is going to consider whether this kind of focus and what we could focus on, do we have the appetite for this? Do we have the energy for this? Is this even something we should undertake? Let me back up. Let me give you some more explanation. This congregation has a history of doing some really cool things to address injustices in our community. Y'all did the work before I got here of becoming an intentionally welcoming congregation, intentionally welcoming and inclusive of LGBTQ folk. You are explicit about this. You held a community vigil open for all after the Pulse nightclub shooting. In response to that, you held a giant party when marriage equality became law of the land. Marilyn, you were there handing out champagne, weren't you? And where are you, Marilyn? I know she left. Okay. Well, there she was, handing out champagne with tears in her eyes. This congregation is always happy to have a booth at Pride Fest. And this next year, I want to get a group of us to give out mom hugs and dad hugs to anybody who needs one. Right? Because some of us need to show that we're moms and dads who affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. This congregation has hosted the Transgender Day of Remembrance for the past 2 years, and we were founding members of the Open and Affirming Congregations of the Texas Panhandle, right? And so people now know that we are welcoming and inclusive siblings and cousins. The congregation has participated in so many marches, so many protests. There was yesterday's Women's March. There'll be the MLK March tomorrow. A few years back, the folks from this congregation gathered in support and solidarity with our Muslim neighbors. This congregation is generous with donations to the food bank, to another Chance house, to Martha's house. Is that, yeah, Martha's house? And we donate school supplies every school year so that the teachers in our congregation can take them to their classrooms. We gathered warm mittens to share with people who are cold. And I know many members of this congregation volunteer as individuals, as CASA volunteers, as reading to children in our elementary schools, to delivering Meals on Wheels and distributing pet food to the homeless. We put ourselves out there. And I have no doubt that many of you do write generous checks to charities on a regular basis. I know this about you. Still, I'm hearing from folks who say that as a congregation, we should, we must do more. So I listen. I listen very carefully. I'm listening. I'm trying to figure out where we, the Amarillo Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where this congregation might be needed. I listened, I watched. I noticed that a lot of other congregations in town are also very busy. They're meeting a lot of needs, because there's a lot of need here. They're meeting a lot of needs, especially when it comes to housing and hunger. So I saw where they already were, and I asked us to consider if we might go where those other congregations can't or won't go. Where might we be called to go where they can't go because of their theology, because of their practices? Is there a gap? Their generosity leads up to a point and then stops. Maybe you could go that. Where are they unable to reach across distance and we have no problems? I did a little bit of research. I found out that the food bank would really, really appreciate any donations of feminine care products. Because any money that they raise, they have to buy food. They can't buy those things. And if a person is experiencing food insecurity and they receive food stamps, government assistance, they can't use that to purchase. And yet people still need those things. And apparently other churches are really happy to show up with casseroles, but they won't bring tampons. Can't imagine why. I met with another group that was working to help resettled adult refugees learn English in an informal setting. And I thought, maybe this is a place where we could participate. But when I got there, I found that another church had already shown up in such numbers that they outnumbered the English language learners 3-1. Something else was nagging at me. I kept hearing that we should go do good things so that people would get to know us better. Community service as a way of free publicity? I had to think, what if we made great changes in this world, but no one knew that it was us. Would it be a failure? I visited with our social action committee and I listened and I heard the desire to be of service and people doing many different things, but there was sort of a lack of an integrated focus. And so I made a suggestion. What if, as a congregation, we committed ourselves for just a fixed period of time, maybe a year, I don't know, to one broad but specific concern. Do it for a little while. And then step back and reflect on the results, because that was the pedagogical model that I was raised in. Act, reflect, adjust, repeat. Act, reflect, adjust, repeat. Okay, so here's more on the idea. Say, maybe for 1 year, we agree to focus on one broad topic. It could be children's education, climate change, white supremacy culture, destigmatizing mental health, immigration reform. What if, as a congregation, we spent a year committing ourselves and our resources to that one topic? Now, individuals are free to go do whatever they are still doing. But over the course of the year, we might do many different things all under that one topic. I'm also going to encourage us to maybe just leave hunger and homelessness to the other congregations, because they're all over it right now. There's a lot of resources. But within that one broad topic, we would have to get very busy with the 3 basics of social justice work: education, advocacy, and service. Now, service is the most glamorous one, but education and advocacy are essential. So let me explain. Education, less glamorous, but it keeps us honest. Education means educating ourselves about the issue, learning about the history of a problem, learning about the context of it, learning about all of the different factors. Education means admitting that we don't actually know absolutely everything already, and so we have to learn a little bit more. Education could be done as individuals, making presentations. It could be done as group reads of a book or a series of classes, a curriculum. Education includes asking the questions about how we might have contributed to creating this problem or maintaining, how we might be perpetuating the problem. Some of the most regrettable missteps in social justice work come from not having fully gotten up to speed on the scope of the problem. Running in thinking that we already know the solution. Education means being willing to change ourselves first. Being willing to change what we think we know. That's humbling. Okay, advocacy. Advocacy is the work of writing letters, lobbying our elected officials, advocating for those who will be served. And that could be us. Advocacy is what's happening during a protest. And I'm going to point out, I'm not really a big fan of signing the online petitions, because those petitions are about creating awareness, but they do not have the same impact as actually walking into the office of our elected officials. They don't have the same impact as sitting down with the CEO of a company. Advocacy is the work of becoming articulate and directed, and the willingness to reach across difference, to request, demand, instruct that change is going to happen. Okay, education, advocacy. Now, service, at its most profound, service means placing one's own self, one's body and hands in proximity to the problem. It means learning directly through observation and participation. It is in service that we see in such a way that we cannot unsee. It is in service that we understand the problem immediately, direct, up close. Service comes with some dangers and uncertainties. Done well, it can be humbling and disruptive to my complacency. Done less well, it can just allow us to feel satisfied that we made a difference when we simply placed a bandage on top of a deeper problem. In my observation, a lot of service projects are superficial. They do not actually make substantive, systemic change to the problem. Years ago, a congregation agreed to help. They wanted to do something as a whole group. We could all do something together, and we took a shift sorting food at the food bank, and we all showed up in our yellow t-shirts, and it was great because all ages could participate. And I got assigned the work of sorting out day-old baked goods that had been donated by a grocery chain. It was just this huge bin of them, sliding, and all in plastic, non-recyclable containers. And my job was to sort them out into other bins, and there was coffee cakes and Danish and all these industrial grade pastries. They were an imitation of food. They were things I would not serve to my own children. They had no nutritional value, no fiber, no protein, no micronutrients. It was just bad fats and bad sugars and bad chemicals, and these were going to be given to an already vulnerable population with multiple health concerns. I went home that afternoon, and I felt that I had been complicit in nutritional oppression of people with food insecurity. And it wasn't a good feeling. So I was changed. I guess that was good. Done well, service work transforms the volunteers as much as what they are working on. I would say I've seen this. The folks who volunteer in our schools, helping children learn to read English, they come away from their time with these children just astonished by their energy, awed by all that they have struggled through to get here. And most of these volunteers walk away eager to return the next week. If we focus on a single topic, the politics of water, recycling, we have a better chance of really changing ourselves as much as changing our world. Remember, throughout the year and at the end of the year, we will spend time reflecting on what has changed in us and what effect we have had upon the world around us. And at the end of the fixed time, we might select a new topic, or we might decide that we're not done. We still need to do more on the first one. Education, advocacy, service. Act, reflect, adjust, repeat. Be ready to make some mistakes. Be ready to work with people who are already doing the work. Don't think we have to redesign the wheel. I believe that we will act ourselves into new ways of thinking more surely than we will think ourselves into new ways of acting. And in doing so, we will build a land of people so bold I'm looking forward to a good discussion this afternoon. If you have ideas, if you have concerns, please come and address the board at 12:15. It will help them as they work to carry our dreams forward. May it be so, and blessed be.